Welcome back, everyone. Game number 3 here between Losira and MMA. This time we are here on Typhoon Peaks, and this is probably one of my favorite maps, and I'm actually really happy to see it in the map pool here. It's just a really fun and interesting map. I would certainly have to say that one of the big determining factors here is the fact that, you know, beyond this first natural expansion, expanding becomes a little bit difficult. It's kind of far and outreaching, and it's really difficult to actually defend all your bases at the same time, just given the spread between them, especially in comparison to maps like Terminus RE, where a third expansion is just so easy, so quick to be able to get, and that makes it a little bit more difficult. I would say personally that specific portion of this map makes it a little bit more difficult for Zerg players, having a little more difficulty moving out to those further expansions, and obviously Zerg players having to be able to have that one-up expansion over their opponents, be it a Terran or Protoss player, makes things a little more difficult come the later stages of the game. We're going to have to, of course, wait and see how Losira plays out this game, and of course how MMA is able to respond and maybe use that to its advantage as well. MMA will be coming out with this wall off here. There's that barracks being placed down. Will be, of course, another depot over there. Let's take a look to see if he's going to be opening up with something like a 2 racks, or if we will instead be seeing just a normal build. Looks like a normal build will be coming. He did pump out that extra SCV, and there's in fact that refinery right now with the 2 racks. I would have expected that second racks to be built by now, so there you have it right now. Just going to be seeing some pretty standard play here from MMA. He really hasn't done anything too fancy so far in the first 2 games, opening up pretty standard, and then just going with just kind of some basic harassment. Typical Hellion map control, Infernal Pre-Igniter Hellion map control. Also using things like dropships with filled with Marines for stim pack can be completely devastating, and he actually used that to some quite positive effectiveness last game, as we happen to see there. First Marine making its way on out right now. MMA will be actually scouting out right with that SCV immediately after. Back over here for Losira. He did, of course, open up with that 15 hatch, and then we'll be going extractor pool again. This definitely seems to be his opening build order of choice for those fast metabolic boost as well as that quick expansion. This clearly seems to be what he prefers to do, and as you can see also, Losira just scouting out actually the front of the base there, just looking for that wall off. He's not too concerned. He would have realized that, you know, if there was no wall off there, he could just pumped out early game Zerglings and gone for some really early game aggression and done a lot of damage. And actually, Drone Scout, is it going to make it away? No, it is not. Some very nice micro there from MMA. That's precisely what you're able to do if you spot that scout early enough. Using that move stop command, you're able to drop it without allowing it to actually move back into your base. Drone Scout grabbing the Xel'Nagitar, waiting for that Marine to pass, and then looks like he will be heading back out straight towards MMA's base. We do have a Reaper coming out. That could be actually quite devastating. You can really do a lot of damage early game with Reapers up until those Queens and the metabolic boost is out into play. Now, we can see that first Queen is coming out into production. Now, even with the Queen there, with some proper micro, especially off creep, those Reapers can do a ton of damage. And there's the Reaper. It is out right now. Losira, unfortunately, for MMA, Losira did spot that, though, with the Drone Scout. So I would have almost actually liked his Reaper to head off in this direction, completely avoiding the Drone Scout, and then maybe just have done something else with it. But unfortunately, that was not the case. Didn't end up working in his favor. And there we go. So we can see that first Queen just about to pop here at the expansion. We do have another Queen coming up over here as well. We did have an SCV moving up in the main, but that did, of course, decide to pull back right now. There's the Reaper Scout. Zergling is able to respond, but again, without that metabolic boost, this Reaper really has a really good opportunity to do tons of damage. He just has to worry about being outnumbered and surrounded, and he is, in fact, pulling back home right now. Overlord Scout pulling on in. We'll be spotting that second refinery placement, and at the same time, though, 2 expansions. Wow! MMA coming out with a double expand here. Very interesting indeed. He's going to be going super hard for a quick third, and if he is able to defend that, that will put him in a tremendous position. This is something that at this point, I don't think Losira has any idea. Now, he has scouted this Expo being dropped over here, but he clearly doesn't know about this third expansion, and no reason he should really expect that either, because that is quite ballsy, I'd have to say. We do have Siege Tech coming through as well. There's the first Siege Tank in production right now. MMA will be working with a very small, relatively small number of forces early game, and that's definitely a problem. He's going to have to make sure that he's able to utilize those forces to their most full effectiveness. That's probably the primary reason why he actually pulled back with that Reaper instead of trying to continue up this harassment here at Losira's main when his Reaper was pretty much safe to do a bit of damage. He just really didn't want to chance losing it because he can't basically afford that chance. Wow, that was difficult for me, wasn't it? First siege tank is up, and there's the siege mode. Now, we will be seeing what appears to be a Baneling bust here from Losira. We can see 14 Zerglings in production. Baneling, that's just about to pop here as well. Now, in spotting that first quick expansion, he's going to try to take advantage of that and bust right through that frontal wall, but actually the expansion is being placed down right now. Some nice tank positioning will able to actually cover basically all of that expo, except for the gatherers that are working down here. He can cover pretty much everything from those initial Zerglings, so we'll be interested to see how Losira decides to play this and how he decides to actually move forward with the engagement. This Reaper, being a complete hero, hasn't taken any damage right now, already has 3 kills, but here comes the push. Baneling's leading the way. We've got a second tank coming into play right now. Gonna want to see these depots raised right now. No, depots don't get raised. This one over here does. Baneling's in the main. Couple Zerglings here in the natural doing what they can for damage, but this tank is just going to be able to shell out lots of damage against them. We did have a couple Zerglings and Banelings here in the main, but it looks like those have been taken care of right now, and MMA appears to actually have successfully defended this as long as it gets that repair. There we go. Repair is going down there on that depot. Depot's lowered, and MMA is free to continue mining right now. So Losira didn't really do that much damage. Let's take a quick look there at the unit loss tab, and Losira ended up losing more than MMA, so some very nice defense, completely utilizing the splash damage there of that tank. And again, look at that coverage, really unbelievable. Because of that placement, he can just cover such a wide area, and that gives him almost full protection. This Reaper wasn't even in that engagement whatsoever either, and that would have actually helped quite a bit in terms of cutting back the number of losses. But once again, taking a look here, Losira was actually in a worse position given the fact that he pulled forward with that engagement. So with that being said, he is now going to have to try to overcome that and work on his economy. He's really in no position to come out with a secondary attack. He is getting just enough Zerglings to try to defend himself just in case there's a counter push. Now we can see, of course, MMA hasn't in fact tried to move out for a third. He's just using at this point that extra command center for the muling and for the extra SCV production. You can see SCVs queued up to go right down there. We do have this one opening over here and just a couple Marines defending. So again, MMA with very little early game units has defended himself tremendously, and that's really so just some really nice play there by MMA. Definitely have to give him credit for that. Speedlings heading across the map. Reaper still alive. Unreal. Sitting now with 6 kills. Really pretty impressive there by him. He's kept this Reaper alive for so long. One Zergling trying to pull back in and actually force the splash damage on those SCVs. Where are the rest of those Zergling forces? There they are, up here in the expansion. I thought they might have died or something. Another hatchery sitting over here for Losira, going to be getting those extra larvae there from that, of course. In terms of tech and everything that he's got going on, just coming up with that layer right now. Also, we'll be getting those level 1 upgrades. So you can see just the style of play here from Losira. Not really trying to tech heavy early on and go for that super strong economy, but just been working on some really early game aggression for the past few games. And although it worked quite well for him in that first game, and he was able to take advantage of MMA's opening in the wall that he initially had in that first game, we can see MMA has been successfully able to defend this aggression that we've been seeing from Losira last game and this game as well. So right now MMA definitely had a distinct advantage, and Losira has some making up to do. Still obviously that clear disadvantage for Losira in terms of the resources lost in the engagements that have taken place thus far. SCV Scout trying to move out to scout out that third, and even with the Zergling hot on his tail, I think he will still spot the fact that that third is up. So there we go, spotting the creep. He now knows right now that Losira is in the third. He will, of course, want to check down here at this fourth as well. And actually, I wouldn't be too surprised if that Reaper had spotted that position. Looks like he likely did, in all honesty. I'm pretty much expecting the fact that that had happened. But here comes a big push right now for MMA, moving across into the third. He will be completely taking advantage here of this high ground. This is so easily abusable right here. Just you can lay a siege line right in this position and just do tremendous amounts of damage. But no, MMA actually is taking a post here in this position at the same time, leaving his main very vulnerable. We do have one depot as sort of a semi-spotter there to get a little bit more forward vision and allow him to see when this push is coming a little bit earlier. Tank line is really going to be important here in terms of how he defends himself. Looks like we will be seeing a slow push, and there we go. Just that one tank in that position was enough to stop the entire mining production that was taking place over here for Losira. So Losira now has to deal with this. Looks like he will be moving very soon to engage. A couple Zerglings rallied over here, and as well as those Banelings, we do see a ton of those. We'll be pushing up, but this is a very strong position to break. Couple Zerglings trying to force that splash damage. Actually ended up killing one tank because of that splash damage of this tank up here. One of those 11 kills looks to be his buddy, unfortunately. One SCV will want to try to repair, though. We do have those Banelings. Yes, they do in fact have those centrifugal hooks as well. It's going to help him quite a bit. Banelings trying to roll forward right now, do some damage. They were able to take out a couple Marines and hit that bunker, but I don't think it's enough. We do also have a medevac pulling out, so we will be seeing some drop harass here from MMA as well. The fact that he stopped the mining here at this base is really big, because right now Losira is just mining from 2 bases. We do have all these speedlings and banelings propped up in this position. It looks like he will be planning to engage from here, and actually we have a couple of unsieged tanks, so this could be a problem. Pulling back, finally sieging up. We'll be retreating to this bunker line. These tanks are going to take a lot of damage. Marines in the back trying to reinforce them, but see you later, siege tanks. Zerglings and banelings just going to be mopping up everything that MMA has. Some very nice Marine spread, though, stopping a little bit of that splash damage that he was taking from those banelings. Unfortunately now, though, there are too many units. Medevac able to pick him up and drop back home with that. And again, MMA opting just for the orbital command. He doesn't really want to try to come out with these planetary fortresses. It looks like he did just pull the one that was inside of his main and drop it on down here. So yeah, there you have it. This is going to be a little bit difficult to defend. He does still have these rocks up as a defense, though, and that's going to help him quite a bit. Also, these 2 tanks here, very interesting placement. Vision of the high ground. We do have a couple banelings chilling out here, though. I wonder when these are going to come into play. Speed is trying to roll into main right now. Is he going to take advantage of those depots? Yes, he will. The 1 depot lowered. MMA not responding fast enough. These Zerglings inside of the main, taking out that tank first, and then going right to the resource line, doing what he can for damage. Couple banelings still burrowed over here. Some very nice action that we are seeing by Losira, trying to tilt the tilt the scales back in his favor. You can see slowly making up for the loss that he did have. Continuously working with those speedlings inside of the main here. That is a lot of damage. We do have a drop coming down at the same time, but MMA forced to pick that up. Wasn't able to get that down quick enough before those Zerglings responded, and still some Zerglings wreaking havoc here inside of the main of MMA. MMA having a very difficult time. We do have 2 Vikings on the board. Those are going to want to head across the map and start doing some sniping. Speedlings mopping up a few Marines here. Finally, it looks like they will be taken care of, though. There are enough Marines and tanks to actually mop that up. These burrowed banelings will be quite devastating at some point. I'm going to have to imagine that this is going to be a little bit tough here for MMA to deal with. At some point, I expect those to come unburrowed and just take out massive amounts of those light units there. Marines moving across the map. We do also have this medevac here as well, trying to do some drop harass. Finally, going to be seeing some mutas come into play here from Losira. That Spire is up. We can see 12 mutas in production at the moment right now. We do have some attempted dropping going off. Just 1 Marine, though, so won't be really doing too much damage. Couple Marines here in the dropship. Going to actually take out that 1 queen that was trying to transfer down to this expansion that Losira was trying to get up over here. So unfortunately for MMA, although he did a bit of damage with that push and stopping all of that mining for Losira at this expansion, he did take heavy losses as a result and is slowly trying to basically claw his way back into this game. He really needs to try to make up with this with some continued harassment. Here we go. We do have a Marine dropship moving down to try to snipe out this expo gun, turn face, and try to take out a couple of those mutas, but there were too many mutas for him to actually properly deal with. Now that mutas are on the board, MMA will have a difficult time actually moving forward with this drop harass. He did get spotted there by those 2 overlords, and that will in fact force him to push back right now. Marines cutting it dangerously close right there, and wow, look at that. Because of that missile turret placement, he was able to spot those, so took those out. We do still have these 2 banelings over here, so those may come into play later in the game. Tons of speedlings rolling across the board. I think there's 1 baneling mixed in there as well. Yes, in fact there is. Some continuous Marine harassment, as well as these Vikings just moving across the map. Medevac moving across over there as well. So we'll be seeing a drop sometime soon. Looks like he will be heading out to this expansion of Losira. He, of course, wants to try to stop and harass that expansion as much as possible. Ton of banelings and speedlings rolling across the backside. We do, of course, have these mutas here as well. There is a drop going down, so these Marines will be stimming up and moving out into this expo, trying to snipe it down. And here we go. Ton of mutas sniping down a bunch of those Marines right there in the corner. These mutas are primed to do a lot of damage right now inside of the main of MMA. There are some stimmed up Marines. We'll be trying to engage and push them back a little bit with the help here of these medevacs, making them much more durable. There are a ton more Marines over there as well. So MMA really going to be struggling here to deal with these mutas. They're just going to be all over the map. Some very nice turret placement. That will help them quite a bit there as well. Speedlings and banelings not coming into play quite as of yet. There we go. Finally, those Marines pulling forward to that engagement, sniping down that expansion, and then we'll be heading back up to try to check for an expansion up here. Might be able to spot those overlords and try to pick those off as well. Broodlings just out of the range, unfortunately. There are a ton of banelings rolling down just to try to deal with these Marines here, and that will, of course, work quite well once he does, in fact, engage those Marines. Hopefully he moves down to engage him. A couple spine crawlers to try to deal with any possible future small drop harass that may be taking place. Vikings just consistently moving across the board to try to snipe these overlords. Very ballsy given the fact that there's such a large amount of mutas. There we go. Rocks finally dropped, but tons of Marines on the tank line there for MMA. Was able to deal with that small amount of forces that were streaming in. And here we go. Marines moving back forward to engage, taking out a couple of those Zerglings. We'll be going for those spine crawlers there as well. But here come the main forces of Losira. Should be able to mop with these Marines very quickly. A couple mutas here just just in case he tries to pick up those Marines, trying to snipe down those mutas and then pick them up and then head out of the way, but there are a lot more mutas pushing at the same time. Some Stim Marines moving across the map, sniping down those creep tumors. Very nice counter there by MMA. Just a small victory, but trying to drop those creep tumors definitely will help him quite a bit there. Do we still have the Viking moving across the map? No, it doesn't look like we do anymore. Viking was finally taken care of, I'm guessing, by that large death cloud there of mutas that Losira does have. He doesn't really have too many, but a ton of Speedlings and Banelings, and gonna be moving right into the Expo. Tanks completely out of position. MMA was trying to move out against Losira, but getting caught off guard, forced to lift off that orbital command. Nice responsiveness as well by pulling those SCVs back, and actually didn't really take too many losses, especially given the fact that he was caught so out of position there, and will be pushing out with a counterattack. Now, he does have a lot of tanks. Let's take a look at the army tab. Needs to be careful. Lots of Banelings rolling forward, pulling back to the safety of those siege tanks, but no, lost a ton of Marines. Banelings will be rolling into the tanks as well. Not the most effective target, but going to do what he can for damage. Missile turrets plus a couple Marines will be shooing back this Mutaforce, even though there's a lot of them. Tanks doing what they can, but look at this. Speedlings right in the main. Finally, some more tank reinforcements, as well as those mutas. At the same time, there's a big drop going down here in the main. We'll be sniping down that layer, as well as probably going for any tech. We'll be trying to take out that Banelings nest. There we go. The forces there from Losira were taken care of inside of that expansion of MMA. MMA also dropping the Baneling nest, not able to do much more damage though, as Losira did push back. But at the same time, here we go, another counter push coming out from MMA, moving across the map again. We'll be lifting up some of those Marines and trying to drop them, I think, at the expansion. Looks like that's where they will be going. There we go, dropping some here onto the low ground. Couple guys here spreading out the high ground, some consistent scanning going down to drop these creep tumors. MMA doing a really nice job of just trying to constantly drop that vision of Losira there, and actually sniping the expansion. Unfortunately, at the same time, we have a counterattack primed up here for Losira, pushing right into the expansion here. The hatchery has been dropped over here, and here comes the push again from Losira, trying to catch some of those tanks off guard with those mutas. Unfortunately, the Marine reinforcements will actually push back those Mutalisks from Losira, so Losira going to be forced to push back, trying to engage with that turret, and then we'll try to start working on this SCV count. Is primed to do a ton of damage though, but no, MMA pulling back with those SCVs, buying those Marines enough time to pull forward to actually protect against that. Still, look at this. The Marines here from this drop that took place to drop the hatchery here of Losira are still alive. Will be picked up in that medevac and pulling back home. A couple of tanks here, and we'll be heading across the map, and actually tanks now will be used to drop these creep tumors as well. And MMA just doing a phenomenal job of stopping this creep spread of Losira, and again trying to consistently drop here. Just unreal the amount of drops that we are seeing take place. Another drop going back into the main, and this is just consistent drops from MMA, trying to harass non-stop. What will he be trying to snipe this time? Maybe just trying to get that evolution chamber, or just try to work on the small drone count that is sitting over here. At the same time, another big push coming across the map here from MMA, stimming up and dropping almost all of the creep tumors. There's almost no creep left on the map for Losira. Slowly, this will be receding as all of those creep tumors have been taken care of, and the Marines continue to push right now. And at this point, Losira is really struggling, going to be trying to force to pull down right now, catching those Marines out of position. The mutas will be able to snipe down these tanks very quickly. Very nice play there by Losira, but there are still so many Marines that these mutas, even though they mopped up the tanks, won't be able to deal with those numbers. And right now, Losira is forced to recreate that Baneling nest because, of course, we did see MMA snipe that down. We do have this expansion trying to be built over here. A couple of Zerglings were actually taking care of that. Muta's moving across the map. We'll be trying to deal with these Marines because they're very close to dropping that layer, and Losira cannot lose that layer at all. He'll be in just way too much trouble. MMA with these Marines and medevacs doing so much damage in this series. It is really unreal. Looks like he will be trying to snipe down this expansion. Muta's trying to push forward. Does he have enough, though? Doesn't look like he does. These Marines are so much damage, and there is the GG from Losira. MMA opened up the game with a 1-Rax expand using an early game Reaper for map control, while Losira again opted for a quick expansion at 15 and then move into Extractor Pool for that fast metabolic boost. MMA then dropped another command center, utilizing that for additional SCV production for fast saturation, as well as the use of getting some additional mules in play. Spawning MMA's fast expansion, Losira pushed out with some early game Banelings and Speedlings, trying to roll into the main and do a bit of damage. He was able to take out this tank. This tank placement right here helped him quite a lot against all the Speedlings at the low ground. And unfortunately, because of reinforcements of Marines, MMA was actually able to fend off most of the damage that Losira would have otherwise done. In all honesty, Losira was not able to do too much damage in this push. MMA's next move was a tank contain above the third of Losira, and this effectively allowed him to stop almost all mining from Losira. We're going to see Losira actually pull the drones off the line so that he doesn't basically take heavy losses from that. After mounting up a ton of speedlings and banelings, Losira was finally able to deal with this tank harassment from MMA. He's going to actually be able to sweep on right in here, get a surround on those tanks, especially catching those tanks on siege, helped them tremendously. And this again put MMA in a rough position. Throughout the rest of the game, we saw some consistent drop harassment from MMA, using the Medivacs and Stim Marines with those combat shields to harass the economy of Losira and just try to hit from multiple positions. And he used this to take out workers, to take out tech, and this is something that definitely helped him through the game. MMA was able to secure his third while continuously moving out with that drop harass into all of the expansions of Losira. A drop from MMA took out Losira's fourth expansion, while a later drop rolled right up into his main and was actually able to snipe down a baneling's nest. And this was definitely a big victory for him because it temporarily cut back the building of any banelings for Losira. Then we saw a strong push from MMA across the map, and this allowed him to take out the third expansion of Losira, putting him on just one mining base. Losira attempted to move out with a counterattack and was able to snipe down these tanks, but besides that didn't do much of any damage just because of the heavy marine numbers from MMA. MMA then continued up his aggression, pulling across the map and using scans to take down all of the creep tumors of Losira, denying him all the vision, moving right on into the expansion, and this is what eventually forced the GG from Losira. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching. This was game number 3 between Losira and MMA. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We will be moving on to game number 4 in just one moment. And as always, guys, if you like the content, please do go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Keep watching and keep owning.